Welcome to Secure by Design. I'm your host, Daniel Kulik, and today we are talking about one of the biggest business topics of the decade, artificial intelligence. But instead of asking only which AI tool should companies use, we're going to actually ask much more important question here. Is the business actually ready for AI? Okay. Uh, and because AI does not operate in a vacuum, it really touches pretty much company data, the employee behavior, access permissions, maybe deeply, the infrastructure, the compliance, of course, the cybersecurity, and now even autonomous workflows through AI agents. Um, my guest today is Victor Marte, founder of TechPiler and an expert in cybersecurity, infrastructure, security architecture, and AI readiness. The central idea of today's episode is very simple. You cannot build an AI advantage on a cracked foundation. Okay, so Victor, welcome to Secure by Design podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And, thank you for the invitation. I've watched your podcast a couple of times and, so I'm very happy to have received the invitation to be here.
Victor, it's our
I
pleasure.
really, yeah, Ricky, and I get an opportunity to talk about this topic because it's really important to me. Looking forward to talking about it.
Yeah, looking forward to it. We're gonna have lots of fun today, I'm sure. So, Victor,
Mhm.
before we get into AI readiness and the whole cybersecurity subject, if you
Mhm.
could please introduce yourself very briefly.
Sure.
What led you into cybersecurity, the infrastructure, and how this very important topic of preparing companies, for AI. Please go ahead.
Sure. Sure. A little background about myself. I am I'm a computer science um, graduate, many years ago. Uh, and I've been involved in tech since about 97, 98, so I'm aging myself a little bit here. But, I saw the birth of the internet. Um, and, um, and as my first real role in tech, my title was infrastructure engineer. So it's managing infrastructure.
Mhm.
And there was some aspects of cybersecurity in it, but the role wasn't really defined yet. It just evolved. And so I evolved into it as the industry evolved. And
Mhm.
I've been involved ever since, different roles over time, but they always involve, some, some aspect of cybersecurity. And I'm still here.
Awesome, awesome. I mean, yeah, I think you've seen the evolvement of the field over the years, and
Yes.
this is a great starting point, Victor, because I think many business leaders still you know kind of have problem with separating the topics. Like they see AI as, for example, one thing.
Hmm.
Cybersecurity as another thing,
Yes,
and
exactly.
and
Yeah.
infrastructure as something in the background of it.
Correct.
So
Correct.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I think in reality,
Hmm.
all of these areas are now connected, right?
Hmm. Correct.
And so
Exactly.
if I say, like, if the infrastructure is weak, if access is not controlled, for example, or if the data is messy, so to speak, then AI does not become a
True.
competitive advantage. It
Correct.
can actually become a business risk, correct?
Correct.
So
Correct. Yeah.
yeah.
So with TechPiler,
Mhm.
um, our approach has been, that security is not an add-on, right? It's not
Yes.
something you layer on after the fact. It,
Right.
it needs to be fully integrated. I think the industry has gone in that direction. You have the CI/CD pipeline,
Yeah.
um, what they call DevSecOps, and so on. So the industry has moved, but we have to do that with the infrastructure, the actual
Mhm.
infrastructure, organizations overall, and that is our focus. So IT security merged together, not as an add-on, and that same concept needs to be applied with AI. So that's
Yeah,
the point that we're trying to make.
very good point, though. All
Hmm.
right, so just a thought. So when you speak with companies like today, for example, what do you usually see around AI? Is a like a real strategy, fear of missing out, the FOMO, or the confusion about where to begin, so to speak?
Yeah, a little larger, much larger organizations. What they have, and I see a larger organization. They're probably gonna have a CISO. They're gonna have a VP of IT and so on. So, and they're very well organized. And those guys are beginning right now to plan to implement. And they're taking the right steps. There's a lot of work, but it is like the mid market client, the smaller client. Um, they just they hear is overwhelming, pretty much.
Yes.
There's a lot of noise. There is a lot of noise. I mean, everywhere you turn is AI. AI and everything. Soon your coffee is gonna have AI. It's like so, and it's very confusing because no one knows what it really is, right? Um, and well, first we need to establish that, what is it? What is it? In my opinion, and it's just another form of computing. You know, uh, it is going to change our lives, um, for the better, I believe.
Mhm.
But it is going to introduce a lot of security risks that need to be addressed ahead of time. And this is different. It's very different from before because, and we're going to touch on that topic of agentic
Yeah.
clients or agents that work on their own. I mean, they take initiative and act. How do we manage that? How do we do that? Yes, it's going to enable an employee to act as five employees, but how do you control that? So anyway,
Yeah, that's a
that's
real
that's
question. That's a real
yeah,
question, Victor. Yes, and I think
yes,
that totally matches with what I also observe.
hmm,
Lots of
yes,
companies I see do not want to stay behind, so they start
hmm, correct,
with tools. They start with
yes,
tools instead of
hmm,
foundations. And
correct, exactly.
so they ask, should we use, the Copilot, the Chat
Hmm.
GPT, the
Yes,
Gemini, the Claude? I mean, who cares?
yeah,
So, but maybe the better, or the first question should be, are we prepared as an organization to actually,
exactly,
use any
exactly.
of these tools safely and
Hmm.
effectively at the end? So
Yeah,
that's probably, this is kind of like, what I also, I'm on the same page with you
hmm,
on this
hmm,
scenario here.
yeah, and and it's also this is something that needs to be done from the inside out, right? From the inside the organization out, because and you mentioned Copilot, right?
Yeah.
Um, Copilot, yes, I mean it is a big push. So you have to, as a CISO, VP of security and so on. I mean, or a business owner, you might not have a security department. You have to think, who you're taking direction from. If it's from the vendor, the
Mhm.
vendor has a different motivation than you. The
Definitely.
motivation is not to secure data. The motivation is to sell the product. You need to think for yourself. Okay, my vendor is going to tell me that it's going to revolutionize my business, going to grow, but you have to be very alert, very aware of the impact that's going to have in your business, right? Uh,
Exactly. That's all about the impact at the end. All
yes,
right.
correct.
So, Victor, I mean, I've been following you, of course, what you do at TechPiler, and
Mhm.
we keep in touch back and forth. And
Yes.
you have forwarded me a very interesting article recently,
Hmm.
and in that article, I see you use very strong, construction analogy. Like it says, deploying AI without preparation is like building a high rise on an unstable ground. Just citing
Yes.
you from there. What
Hmm.
does a cracked foundation look like inside a real company, in your opinion? Then,
Well, what I try to communicate with that is, um, AI is like I mentioned before, it's a very powerful tool. It's a different mode of computing, much more intelligent than we had before. Um, but the problem is that the fuel for that system is data, your data.
yeah.
So it needs to consume that data and process it, and then in order to generate responses for queries, either
That's
to
right.
your users or your employees or external. So how do you control, if you deploy an um LLM internally, which consumes all your data, could be a proprietary information, um you know um customer data, PII, and so on. It consumes it. First of all, how do you control what it can and cannot access?
Mhm.
And how do you control what it responds out, and to
Mm,
whom
yes.
how do you do that? That is the questions. So you have to you have to think of that first. Um, and not only that, but then add the controls before, and that's the foundation I'm talking about. That needs to be in place first, and then you can introduce an LLM into it, because now you have controls. Now you can say, okay, I'm gonna introduce a system which is gonna improve our business, but I can control what can it can and cannot access, and to whom it will respond and not respond. And also logging. You need to have the historical data. I mean, think about compliance.
Yep.
You know, here in the U.S., in Europe, because I know Europe is very stringent on. And if you're a multinational that do business in Europe, all that needs to be taken into account before
You're right.
you bring in an LLM. So
Mm, yeah, I mean that
yes,
that analogy is very powerful. I mean, everybody understands construction,
yes, exactly.
business, but no,
Yeah,
like no serious builder starts with the top floor, right?
exactly.
So
You say, it's like, okay, I buy a piece of land and then I'll just order the bricks and start building. No, you don't do that.
yeah, you need
First you have to make
foundation,
sure
you need utilities, permits, right?
exactly, yeah.
Safety
Make sure the
systems.
soil, yeah, the soils is solid. I actually, I know of a building that actually in New York, where they were almost finished and the building shifted because the ground shifted underneath. And now they have to
Yeah.
destroy it, but they don't know how to do it though, because it's middle of the city. But the same thing, the same thing could.
Yeah,
Well, you don't want that
exactly.
to happen. You don't want it to happen to business, because once the data leaves your environment, there's no way to get it back.
Exactly.
It is
So say
part of
say,
the
see,
ethos, So and
yeah.
just think about the impact. Think about the impact it's going to have on their disclosure requirements,
Mhm.
that you have to make. If there is a data leakage, regardless if it's AI or whatever, you have to disclose it. There are rules that require you to disclose it to your clients. What kind of impact is that gonna have on your business? The trust that your clients are gonna have to give you the data in the future.
I
So
mean, yeah, the impact could mean be or not to be for your company, pretty much. That's what
exactly. Yes. Yeah.
and all that, all these, controls underneath that are
Hmm.
weak are eventually gonna, show up as cracks, and
Correct. Exactly.
and that's gonna be end. So,
Yeah.
yep, very,
Yeah.
very well. I think we got that pretty well
Hmm.
explained. So,
Hmm.
okay, so let's move to the next question I
Hmm.
have for you, Victor. So,
Sure.
many executives think AI readiness means as we said, buying an AI tool or giving employee access to a platform, anyone that you wish.
Mhm.
Why is buying the tool not the same as being ready for AI, in your opinion?
Um, well, I think AI is we don't really understand it, or
Mm-hmm.
what it is. Like I mentioned before, it's just another method of computing, but it's revolutionary. It's not like nothing we've seen before, right? It's like it's interactive um and it gives the appearance of thinking, although it's not really thinking. It's just it's I'm not gonna get into nitty gritty, but it is very It's very useful, right?
Right.
Um, and but and a lot of people think AI is just chatbot. It's ChatGPT or Claude and so on, because
You
that's
you
what
know
makes
that
all.
more than 90% people just use Chat GPT to just they actually think it's like a alternative for like a Google search or something.
Yes, yes. I know, exactly. But not just that, but just think about it, your employees right now, how do you know that they're not going to ChatGPT,
Mhm.
taking someone's working on I don't know, report, sales report and they just put into ChatGPT and say, "Can you format this for me?" And
Yep.
ChatGPT is great. It will take it, it will organize it, and it'll give it back to you. But guess what?
Right.
It just ingests the data. It now it owns it. It's part of it. And yes, they claim that they don't. Yes, I mean you have to trust them that they're not really gonna consume that data and make
Hmm.
it available to other, you know. Um so yeah, so your question was,
Why is buying the tool not the same as being ready for AI?
um well, correct, buying the tools is what is the tool, right? It's like what is it you're doing?
Exactly.
First of all,
Good.
and also just know they're already using it. Your employees are already using it. Assume
Mhm.
that, because all they need is a browser and go to, openai.com or whatever and use it without
Mhm.
your knowledge to help them. Right. You need to get control of that. And that's a tool already. That's a tool. There are many tools, your SaaS applications are already using it.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, so that's not, I mean, it is part of, of the picture, but it's not the whole picture. The picture, if when you integrate your business into AI, it means you AI enable your business, which is now part of the business, right? So it means you might have an internal LLM that's focused on your business, which private data, private access, and then you have the ability for employees to go public, but you have to specify what they can reach out in the public sphere and what must be accessed internally, and so on. So to AI enable your business is a long process, but the first step is to prepare your business for it, so that you
Exactly.
can control.
Yeah.
You integrate a system, and you want to say, well, only you know this set of data can be asked. How do you control it? How do you identify that data
Mhm.
and the data? No, that's where the classification comes on, and that's another topic. You may want to talk on it or not, but so what is classification? How do you do it? How do you do it right? That's the question. So
Exactly. I think
mm,
you're spot on,
hmm
Victor, here. I mean,
yes,
buying the tool is the easy part. I mean, anyone
yes,
can do this.
correct,
But
correct.
the hard part is actually making sure like your company knows what data the tool can access. I think that's the big thing.
Yes, correct,
Who is allowed to use it? That's another
correct.
big question.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, so how the outputs are verified.
hmm
Who actually determines the data that comes out is validated, accurate, very accurate. So I
hmm
mean, these are all the questions. So AI readiness is not procurement. I mean, it is governance, it's
Correct.
security.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
that's
very
that's
well said.
that's
And
that's what it is. Yeah. So okay, cool, very good. So moving on, where do companies usually fail first when they try to adopt AI? Is it data quality, maybe access control, maybe infrastructure, maybe you know the human aspect, meaning employee behavior, or just maybe simply leadership not understanding the whole picture? What do
uh,
you think, Victor?
yeah, I think it's leadership because everything stems from leadership, right? If leadership,
Uh-huh.
doesn't have the direction, then other people are going to make those decisions, right, on their own. They're going to use their own judgment.
Correct.
They may not be the correct course for the business. Maybe just be the best course for whatever action they're taking. So yeah, then it needs to be top down. Um, and Yeah, so usually I think that and control. I mean, it's that readiness, right? Before you integrate it, before you even um identify what the solution you're going to integrate, you have to think ahead. Okay, once you identify it, once you bring it in, what is the best method to introducing it to the business? And you need to have that, you know, and pretty much up the foundation to say, okay,
Yeah.
let's bring it in. And here's here's the plumbing, you know, in, out, and so on, controls. And so that needs to be in place first.
Hmm.
If you try to do it ahead of time, it's unstructured data. It's just going to grab whatever it can. And employees are going to use it in maybe unapproved manner. May not be malicious. It just be like a knowledge. They don't know the implications of uploading you know private information to this
Exactly.
system.
Yep.
They may know the implications, so they'll upload it, but they have no idea that now that information it's been consumed and now it's part of the system
Yeah.
and you can never get it back.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think it's all the human factor. I think it's huge, as you
yeah,
said. Leadership. I mean, I
yes.
look at it like AI is really really good. In exposing problems quickly.
Oh
Because
yes. Yeah. Yeah.
if let's say if your company has, for example, poor documentation, guess what
Hmm.
happens? AI will freaking spot it and expose this.
Hmm.
Or you know if you have maybe like access rights, let's say, to some platform that are
Hmm.
too broad or something like that, what happens? Same thing. AI will pick it up and expose it. So that's really a risk. um
Yes. Yes. Hmm.
Yeah, so I think, like, in a way, AI becomes, I think, I like to use this analogy, becomes like a mirror. It shows whether the company is organized or whether it has been operating in a hidden chaos. That's what I say. It's like either this or good or bad.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
you have to be really really careful.
Hmm. Yes. Um, so.
Okay, so I think we're already touching on very cool subjects here,
Hmm.
and I want to talk to you about the information architecture. So like for like for a CEO or COO or any type of like business owner, founder, what does that really mean in plain English, in your opinion? The information architecture. What does that mean in in your words?
Um, mm, what it means is the controls that you put in place to access your data, right? Like the different
Yeah.
access the data and so on. What sort of infrastructure you got? Is it simply file security?
Uh huh.
That's not sufficient anymore. Permissions. It's okay. Daniel, has access to this folder. That's not. That's doesn't work anymore. Um, in when one of these agents access, because yeah, agents have access data. When they access the data, how do you control that access?
Hmm.
You know, how do you identify
Yes.
the agent? Uh, which means, I think we're getting to that, which is an identity. There needs to be identity management for agents and for users, but beyond that, for both, right? So if an agent is accessing some data on a user's behalf, there needs to be, that access needs to be combined. Um, which means, okay, so you have one set of data that you may have access to, but when you access it via an agent, the permissions need to adjust based on that type of
Got
access.
it.
Yeah,
Got it.
yes, it is Daniel, but Daniel is not accessing directly from his,
Hmm. Hmm.
a
Hmm.
company approved device. He's accessing it via, you know, I don't know, in some internal product that you have. Um, and then they have that, that level of control.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
so that
I think I'm aligned here with you, Victor,
yes,
because I think, I mean, I think information architecture is not just an IT concept. First of all,
correct. Yes,
so if you understand this, then you really know that it's really about whether the company has the some type of like organized has organized its knowledge in a way that like us humans and machine can both understand you know and this is
yes,
what you
yeah.
touched on, I think. So
Yeah,
um
yeah, but the
you
machine itself needs to have an identity. The machine, and that's the thing, the
that's
agent,
coming up,
it
they
is
say.
yes, it itself needs to have an ID. You know,
Yes.
so you can say,
Yeah,
well, this agent can access it, but this agent can't, and when it does, it can only have this level of access, and so on. So
exactly. Yep. Yeah, we are on the same page then. Okay.
yes.
So why is messy, unstructured company data dangerous when AI systems start using it,
Uh,
in your opinion?
because agents or AI or LLM, they're data hungry, right? They need data. That's why you see
Yeah, right.
everyone. So it's gonna consume all. Whatever you put in front of it, it's just gonna consume it. It needs it. It needs it in order to be effective. Um, so it is on you to control what it can access, because it will consume whatever it can access.
Hmm.
If you have unstructured data, then how do you control that? You know, how do you differentiate between I don't know, PII and non PII, data that's free to be used publicly. Maybe it's marketing data
Yeah,
versus internal, proprietary information versus client data versus, not only client data, but PII, right? So,
yeah,
uh, so you need to structure the data so that then you can build controls around them. Unstructured data is just a blob. And yeah, your AI will love it. It will love it. It was just going to consume it. Like, um, it's up to you to prevent that from happening.
yeah. I mean, this subject is huge. I mean,
Hmm. Yes.
when I talk to people like from different industries, from different environments, yeah, everybody understands that you need data for better AI, but
Yes. Mhm.
I think
Yes.
I think we have a problem because many people, assume or think that more data automatically means better AI. That's not true, I don't think,
Mhm.
because if the data is outdated, what is that gonna
Yes.
do? What is it?
Yeah.
What if it's duplicated? What if it's
Yeah.
confidential, badly
Hmm.
labeled, or sitting in the wrong place? Is that gonna
Hmm.
make your AI better? Absolutely not. I think it's doing
Yeah.
the opposite. You know?
I mean, yeah, you've seen. I'm sure you've seen. What happens. Like the where AI would just give you. AI will give you a very confident
Hmm.
response. That could be
Yeah.
wrong.
Oh yeah, yeah. Of
It's
course.
often wrong, but they give you a confident response. So, because it's just it wants to please you. They say that AI wants to please you. So we're gonna say, oh yeah, of course. Um, and there's a meme, there's a funny meme. There's a guy, he asked the AI, like, is this mushroom poisonous? You seen that?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. I
and
know
then
what you mean.
and then the guy's dead. And he said, "I'm sorry, you're right. It is
You're right.
poisonous. I'll update my database, but you're already dead." Yeah.
Yeah, we all have seen it. We all have seen it live. So yes, exactly. So yeah, I think we have to be very cautious and be careful with
Mhm.
this.
Yes.
Okay, so Victor, how should companies organize their internal knowledge so the AI tools produce useful company specific answers instead of those generic or risky outputs that we just talked about.
What I recommend,
Okay,
and
I
we
like that.
recommend,
Come,
and we
come forward.
yeah, and we have solutions. If you want to talk to Tech Piler, you can reach out to us. Which is uh, we have methods of putting sort of governors in
Hmm.
front of
Okay,
access,
okay.
that control that access, right? So a now, and once your data is classified, so now we know that this database contains PII. This database contains company prov- private information, and this is public data, right? So we have three sources. For example, um, direct access should not be allowed. You have to go through some sort of governor through which you access, right? So you make the request. Now, based on who you are, the individual, and the other factors, zero trust
Oh yeah,
factors. Yeah.
yes, zero trust. Yes. Hmm.
Uh, you may or may not have access to the data. Um, if it's private, it should be directed internally, not externally. And the response is too. The response, once it comes back, it needs to again identify who is it responding to and what kind of proprietary data is as part of this response. If there's any, you have a couple of choices. You could deny it. You
Hmm.
could scrub it, scrub any PII. There may be a social security number or something that you know the individual requesting may not have access to. You could scrub it or obfuscate it, or you could just grant it access because the person it is yes, it is the surgeon who needs this patient's MRI and so on. So all that needs to be controlled, right? And not by the AI, not by the user, and not by the data. You need some sort of middleware governor
Govern. Yeah.
that's going to allow that and
Hmm.
log and
Hmm.
so on. So, um,
Okay.
so
Hmm.
that's the correct way to do.
Okay, this is very practical. Yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
I like the tech pilers approach on that. So duly noted.
Hmm.
Very good. I mean, I think every every company can start small.
Hmm.
And they
Yes,
they don't need to solve everything day one. That's the
correct. But every journey begins with one step,
one
and
step, first step.
you need to take the first step, and at least start thinking about it. You know, um, designate an individual, make them the data custodian. They make them the data engineer. The very first step, and say, identify all the data, and let's find out, how we're going to. Once you identify, how are we going to separate it? How are we going to control access to it? If you,
Hmm.
yes. Uh, yeah, that you need to start.
Exactly, the first
Eh,
step. The first step.
Yes.
Okay, so you mentioned the classification. So data classification may sound very boring to executives, and probably is most of the time. But
Yes.
why is it such a critical step for for secure AI adoption?
Correct.
What do you
Yeah.
say?
Yeah. To us techno nerds, data classification. Yeah, we could talk about it all day.
Okay.
For C level individuals may be boring. For them, I will mention is this, what is it gonna look like when you go before the board? And and there's, I need to respond to the fact that there was huge leakage of data. Uh, they're gonna ask you, what did you do to prevent this from happening? You need to be able to give a good response. And the boring stuff is usually the what you should do first, right? Um,
Exactly.
Not the fun stuff. And it's not. Yes, it is boring and it's very time consuming. And very, you know, uh, um, what's the word I'm looking for? I lost the word. Uh,
It's okay.
very detailed, right? Because
Oh, detailed. Okay. Yeah.
the data classification is something that is it's not a black and white issue, There are
Uh-huh.
different approaches. There are different approaches to it.
Okay.
There's data labeling,
Okay.
uh,
Mhm.
but then also you have uh, sort of uh, a system to identify the data, right? They identify patterns, right?
Okay.
For in the US, we have social security numbers. So it will
Yes.
look for anything that's 9 digits. And it's
Right.
gonna say, okay, is it gonna be, is it was one I forgot, is it 3, 4? I forgot the pattern, but it's like 4 numbers, 2 numbers, and a 3 number. So it looks for those patterns to identify, whether uh and that's just a simplistic, but it actually looks at, a sequence of text, and it will identify and say, oh, this sounds like proprietary. Boom, and it'll block it. The problem with that is that there's a lot of false positive, So what happens when employees start, you employ that system and employees start complaining that, oh, this is preventing people doing my job.
Mhm.
So anyway, so that's why you have to start early to fine tune it as much
Yeah.
as possible, because it takes a lot of time to do that.
Start
If you
early,
if
start with the first step, right?
Exactly, yeah, because if you try doing a rush, it's not possible to do it fast.
Yeah,
So
impossible. Yeah, yeah. I mean, this yeah, this one is one of those unglamorous, I call them, things
yes,
that, creates real value at the end of the day. Because if you
yes,
don't know what is, for example, public or internal or confidential or highly restricted, then you
mhm,
cannot govern AI,
correct,
as a responsible, party.
correct,
Like for example, you cannot tell, employees what is safe to use. You cannot tell the AI agents what they should access, for example, right?
yes,
And
exactly,
and then at the same time, you cannot prove to clients or the regulators, so to speak, or
mhm,
partners that you have control. That's kind of like
yes,
that
correct,
becomes yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, I think we're on this together. We're trying to figure it out together. The industry. Yes, we all are. I mean, I see. I follow a lot of people, and I see in organizations, and there's always updating. The OWASP, they're trying to put together some. Like they have the OWASP top 10. They're building an AI LLM sort of guidance, but again, it's a moving target, right? It's like this is new. This is the internet in 1997. We we don't know where we're going,
I
but
remember that time.
yes, yes, exactly. It's like
And it
we didn't
feels,
know.
Victor, I'm not sure about you, but it feels the same. It just, different technology. But the
Yes,
situation that we are right now is very similar. I would say identical.
exactly. But let's.
Yeah.
But now we have the knowledge. Like we remember what happened on the internet, right? So
Yep.
now we have that knowledge. We need to you know
Use it.
yeah, and know how to manage it in the future, because it's not going to be. We're going to look back to this date and think how naive we were, yeah.
Of course.
but
Oh,
but in the
boy.
meantime, we need to we need to be careful. Uh,
Very careful.
what we do, yes.
Okay, let's talk about some, fun stuff. I
Mhm,
would say.
mhm,
Um, I would say I want to talk to you about. AI agents and some access controls.
Mhm.
So as we all notice, AI is moving beyond chatbots.
Yes.
We now
Yeah.
have AI agents.
Yes.
That
Mhm.
can massively access systems. And they once they access the system, they retrieve the information. You know they trigger the workflows, and you would expect them to take actions, right? So they do that.
Mhm.
So the question here is, how should companies think about AI agents from a cybersecurity perspective then?
Um, I believe the agents should be treated um, uh, as entities.
Entities. Okay.
Yes. I was gonna say user, but not user, but sort of entities,
Hmm.
um, and control and given permissions of what they can and cannot do at the institutional level. So though, things that cannot be bypassed by a user. So, it could be the CEO who might request, some data, but through an agent, but the agent is not qualified to do that. It may be required that he or she access that directly,
Hmm.
because the company policy is that agents don't have access to this set of data.
Yep.
Um, because you understand also this, prompt injection they call it, but you can manipulate a client, an agent, to do things that it wasn't designed to do.
No.
Similar to how you can sort of get users to do things, call on the phone and say, I'm the CEO, can you forward me the sales report? And then
Yep.
the same thing, you could do the same thing as an agent. You could fool the agent, but the agents are eager to please. He'll say, "Oh yes, I know what that is. I'll grab it and give it to you." You know, it's not gonna stop and think. And you will do that faster than the user will. An individual, it doesn't have that, I don't know, discernment built in.
Yeah, I mean, I I think you are 100% right here. I mean, you said, your first sentence was about identity.
Yes,
I
yes,
mean, I cannot imagine an AI agent, you know uh, you know just nicely sitting on the side and watching. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
once to me, once the agent accesses the system and takes
Hmm.
action, it becomes an actor, like a official actor and influencer of the
Yes,
environment.
yes,
And
exactly.
if you have that action taking player, you need to you need to give him identity,
Yes,
like which means like permissions,
yes.
set some boundaries, right?
Hmm.
So like monitoring and of
Hmm.
course accountability at the end. So
Exactly. And
yeah,
and
yeah,
agents today, they work schedule tasks. But
yeah,
right now, just know that eventually we're gonna get to a point, because that's, a true agent um will act on his own. And
exactly.
we will get there, and your employees will have agents that are going to take initiative for them. They,
Yeah, I mean,
it's gonna say, "Oh, I have a meeting with Dan based on this," and it's gonna go ahead and grab data and prepare it. By the time you sit down, everything's gonna be there, because your assistant agent did all that for you. Um,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
and I
Victor.
next 6 months we will have that already.
I think that's gonna happen for sure.
Mhm.
But I think if I had to predict a future, which is like in a couple of months or maybe
Yes.
even days,
Mhm.
I would say we're gonna have actually agents, talking to agents and doing work
Yes.
with agents. So I have
Mhm.
an agent, you have an agent, Victor,
Correct.
and we
Yes.
just sit aside and we kind of like maybe are still humans in the loop, but
Yes.
but those agents with the identity on top, they will do our work on
Exactly.
our
Yeah.
behalf.
Exactly.
So
You know.
that I think that's very near and it's
Hmm.
coming.
That's why you need to AI
Interesting.
enable your business.
Yeah.
So, but sorry, I just want to use this analogy because
Yeah,
I
yeah,
like to use
go ahead.
analogies a lot. But you know um via cars today, we know we have a seatbelt, we have crumple zones,
Yep,
anti-roll, independent suspension, and so on, and that
correct.
allows us to to drive fast in the highway.
Yep.
Without those things, we'll be afraid to drive.
To
So
push
just
the
think about
gas. Yeah, to step on the
yeah. So
gas.
so the same thing with your organization. Like if you put the controls in place, then employees can move with confidence and use AI with confidence, knowing that there are guardrails there that's going to prevent bad things from happening. So
Exactly.
yeah, it is a positive, it's an enabler, not not an obstacle.
Exactly. So bridging that to the next question, so should every AI agent have its own identity then? Permissions, audit trails, similar to human user or
Yes,
service account.
correct. I mean, yeah, yeah. I need to develop the system where yes, agents have identities. Um, Currently, that structure doesn't exist.
Mhm.
Um, but it needs to. I mean, it could be implemented, but it needs to be built up, right? Because right now it's mostly API calls and keys and so on. And each individual will have a different set. You need to change that to be more of um the way you control access to users and users.
Yeah,
And they need to
exactly.
authenticate and authorize the same way a user would, because they behave as entities. So then might as well just treat them as that, as such.
Yeah, I mean that
Yeah,
definitely, definitely. And
yeah,
so what is the danger of now let's talk about some obstacles here. What is the danger of allowing AI agents to inherit the full access rights to the human employee,
yeah,
using.
yeah. Well, the dangerous one is it could be misused. Um, I haven't heard yet of a big incident
Uh-huh.
where a hacker from I don't know from some you know I'm not gonna name any companies, I mean
Yeah,
any
yeah, yeah.
countries, but from some adversary country, um, you know, reason they just needed to get access to a device in your system, right? Like, um, and then from there establish, you know, a foundation, from where to work, right? They usually create a
Mhm.
reverse terminal and so on and get access and listen. But now all they need to do is find an agent, right? An agent within your environment and talk to that agent. And if it's an agent with elevated permissions, the agent is like I said before, is very eager to please, and he will start giving you the whatever he has access to. It will just give it to you. So and it will happen. I mean, it may have already happened and it's being hidden, or
Mhm.
but we will hear that, and then you're going to see everyone rushing to figure out a solution. Why not address that ahead of time? Why not think of all that ahead of time? So yeah, that's the danger. That's the danger of having agents having that level of access in individually, right? You could you can set up different tiers where an agent before giving access it needs to have been authorized by a human, and then you
Uh-huh.
combine those two, and then based on that combined authentication was the agent plus the user, then versus individual, individually. So
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. That's really well said here,
Hmm.
Victor. Okay, so
Yes.
when we talk about authenticating both the human user and the AI agent, is is this where enterprise AI security is heading? like maybe separate identity for the user and a separate identity for the AI agent. You think?
Yeah, yes and no. Like I said, with
Yes or no? Okay.
yes and no, because I follow and I haven't heard too much of that. Although I am aware,
Mhm.
a little bit. I was actually planning to build a product that does what I'm talking about. Um, and I put in a lot of time. That was last year. Um, I still have all the plans and so on. And I reached out to my old CEO.
Uh-huh.
I was actually looking for funding for the product, and it turns out that he was building something very similar to me.
Okay.
And what that led me to believe is that those they're in the works. Vendors already have. They understand. They know. Just like anyone who's in data security, understand data security,
Mhm.
will think of all these things I'm talking about. And there are products out there. I haven't seen one. I mean, I haven't seen one. Zero's one is one of them. Um, that is just one my previous CEO is developing. Actually, it's already out. That does a lot of that. Um, I could get you an interview with him too if you like. Um, and so I
Sure.
think that but I'm sure there are going to be other vendors who um are already developing that. Right?
Mhm.
And I think that'd be the best approach for enterprises is use a trusted vendor that has a solution, not build it from the ground up. Building it from the ground up. If you don't have the expertise, um, you're gonna miss a few things. A good vendor with a solution. They
Mhm.
just know that a vendor will have access to multiple enterprises, so they
Oh yeah.
understand the market. They understand what's needed. Now you take all that intelligence into a product and deploy it internally. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing right now, for us, just humans, is shifting thinking.
mhm,
Because
yes,
for
yes,
all these years, we focused mainly on human identity. Who is logged in, what role they have, and etc. Now
yes,
I think we need to start thinking about adding another layer on top.
hmm
What
hmm
is the AI agent allowed to do?
correct, correct,
So
yeah,
that's the big shift in thinking, and I think that people need to actually start
hmm
first recognizing that's their new reality and
hmm
adapting. So that's
hmm
what is going
yeah,
on.
yes,
Okay, all right. So moving on to more other fun stuff. I think uh, let's talk about Um, let's talk about some, maybe some stuff about data, maybe data loss prevention. So, how can data loss prevention actually help employees use AI more safely and confidentially,
yeah,
instead of making them feel blocked or pretty much monitored?
yeah. Well, that's I touched on that earlier, which is anyone who's implemented data loss prevention, the success rate on DLP is very very low.
Okay.
Uh, um, and I mean implement as far as the implementation, because it people underestimate how much it takes
Um,
before it's fully implemented, um, and usually it's abandoned because it causes so much disruption, so many false positives and so on. But
Indeed.
the answer is to start as early as possible,
Mhm.
um, and identify all these false positive, false
Oh,
negatives and so on
gotcha.
ahead of time and learn as an institution. And got to build that institutional learning. You learn a lot in the process. Every organization is different. Um, and And I'm talking about the organization. About now, as for the employee, yes, it is very frustrating when you're trying to do your job. Yesterday, you had no problem accessing this data. Today, you're getting this pop up to saying that you don't have access permissions and you have your job to do, and there's some frustration, and you're gonna call your manager and say, "Listen, you're gonna blame the IT department," and so on. So to avoid that, I say start early,
Mhm.
but it needs to be done, and it needs to be bi-directional, right? Um, so because now you're gonna have employees putting data into the request. It's not just extracting data. So an employee might have, like they may have a file that has you know private information. They're gonna add the file to the chatbot and say, can you, I don't know, can you format this for me or research this for me? That should stop at the client.
That's right.
At the client.
At the crime. At the crime.
um,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah, at the
Mhm.
client. It's just stop and logged, by the way, and not not for punitive reasons, but for training purposes. There needs to be continuous training employees, security training. I love when when organizations have employee security training.
Mhm.
Um, they do, and and employees like it too because they also learn themselves for their own personal when they go home, and they now they have that knowledge. We as a society need to elevate our our security knowledge, right?
Most
But yes,
definitely.
but so it may be bi-directional when you request it, but also the response coming back needs to be validated before it reaches the users, right? So you request information, the AI or LLM model will generate a response. Now that response might have in it um, sensitive information that that particular employee shouldn't have access to.
Mhm. Mhm.
So on the return, it needs to be validated and before it's given back to the user. Um, so yeah, it's a different no, I won't say paradigm, but just it's this is a elevator approach to DLP, data loss prevention, right? It's not it's not just leakage out, but internally.
Yeah,
That
definitely.
needs to be deployed.
Yeah, I think it is a very useful way of to frame
Mhm,
security.
correct.
Because I always say good security should not only say no.
Oh,
you know.
correct. Exact. Yeah, it's an enabler. Remember my analogy about the seatbelt and the crumple zone.
Yeah.
Now it could drive. It could drive. Here in the U.S. They were trying to raise the the speed limit on cars. They
The
say
speed
cars are
limit.
safer
Yeah.
now. They didn't. There was like political fight. But they decided not to.
Yes.
But I believe so. Most people drive 80 miles an hour or more. And
Yeah.
it's safe, in
Exactly.
general. In general, it's safe but you couldn't do that with a 1970s car. You hit a pothole, and the car's gonna go, into the woods. Cars today can do that. So it's the same thing. You know, and every company put the controls so then you could just release the employees to just use the system without fear because they're
Yeah, and
controlled.
it creates confidence at the end. So
Exactly,
that's
exactly,
that's
and
what it
training.
is. So
Mhm.
Victor, so now what should companies train employees on first? Is it prompting, data handling, cyber security rules, or maybe understanding AI, the AI limitations, so to speak.
I think just in general. I mean, the first thing is the implications, right? Of
Uh-huh.
understanding the implication. What happens?
Well, there you
You
go.
know,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. Just what happens when you put in that
So
when you
education.
exactly, yeah. So they can understand. Wait a minute, this is not happening on my desktop. I mean, this is going out
Mhm.
to you know I don't know, some public network, generating and coming back. So all my data is being sent out there. What happens to it?
Exactly.
It stays there. Yeah, it keeps you smart, but the data stays there. Then understand that. Uh, and then and work off from there. I mean, also give employees incentives. Give them, I don't know, give them people like give them placards. Give them thing. I'm level one, level two, level three. Just um yeah. So I think that Um, you need to be that needs to be part. It's not something that you do once in a while, not after
Mhm.
an incident. A lot of businesses do that after an incident. Then they'll like, oh, I don't want us to be trained. They'll do a training, but they never train again. It needs to be part of the organization. Constant. Always training, because things change and evolve.
I mean,
I think that was another part of the question, but I forgot. Is
no, no, no. I think you answered it right on, right on.
okay.
You spot on here, Victor. I mean, I
Yes.
mean, education and AI literacy is,
Yes. Yeah.
is part of is partly productivity at the end of the day, but also it becomes your companies. I would say maybe risk management as well.
Correct.
Um,
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. All right.
Yeah.
So, Victor, maybe to close out our podcast today.
Hmm.
You know, let's think about this. So, imagine a 50-person or 200-person company that wants to use AI seriously,
Hmm.
but has scattered data, very old systems, and no formal AI, governance.
Hmm.
What are the first, three things they should do before deploying AI more broadly? What would you suggest to them?
I mean, the first thing is, like I said, is educate yourself, right?
Okay,
In internal
that's
education,
that's
educate
the
yourself.
foundation of all.
Yes, yes, educate yourself.
Hmm.
You need to, you need to identify an individual internally who's
Hmm.
going to be a data custodian, data engineer,
Very good. I
who
like that.
who's going to be,
I like that.
and I think that's a role that needs to be. I don't know if it exists yet, the title, but it needs to, if it doesn't
But it
exist, they need
should.
to create. Yeah, it needs to be. There needs to be a data custodian. When you go to an organization, it's okay. Who's the data custodian? Who's in charge of, you
Mhm.
know, enforcing, um, the data
I need you
classification.
need to have a dedicated person
Yeah,
that like go-to person. So,
exactly.
yep.
Yeah. Uh,
Mhm.
I think that's the very first step, and then identify data. Where it is, how it's accessed, who has access. All that needs to be drawn out, and then decide and to put the guardrails. What to put the guardrails.
Mm, mm, uh-huh.
Classify. That allows you. And then you could after that be then you can talk about technical controls. The technical controls are the easy part. Because it
Mhm.
just it's the engine, but he can't work unless you have the structure. If you don't have the structure, there's nothing to control. How do I how do I say, okay, you can't access that, but
Mhm.
you can access this. Well, that structure needs to exist.
Mhm.
The data separation and classification and so on. So that's what I tell business. Begin with that, because AI it's going to continue to evolve. It's going to continue to change, and we cannot chase the technology path because we have no idea where it's going to end up. But we can start preparing now, preparing your business, because
Love it.
the you know the question is whether it's going to be part of, yes, it is going to be part of your business, and it is already, because I'm telling you, if there's a 99.99% chance that your employees are already using it without your knowledge.
Exactly.
So,
And
so it's
that's
already part of your business.
mhm, mhm,
Might as
mhm.
well just, um, there's no way to avoid it.
That is the truth. So the
Hmm.
key here is not, I would say, not perfection, but the key is disciplined preparation, or as you said, education.
Correct.
I love that a
Yes.
lot. I mean, this resonates with my, personal opinion about that as well. So, okay, so again, going, maybe advising some, C-level guys, like what should a CEO, CFO, or COO ask their IT or security team before approving a major AI rollout?
I will recommend if you don't have any internal knowledge. I mean, you could reach out to a company like Signora. I was like Signora or TechPilot or both because we work together.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's
Yeah,
collaborate.
and we can help. We have the capability. To do that. We breathe and think that day in day out.
Mhm.
Just like I mentioned before about the vendors, like you don't want to develop those controls internally. You want to go to a vendor that has a solution already built and you're just going to implement it. Trying to build it from the ground up is if it's not your expertise, you should not do it. Um, if you have an employees and you want to assist employees, you know, bring in you know advisors who are going to advise you
Yeah,
path. You can reach out to Tech Pilot, Segnar, like I said, both. I said we
yeah.
don't compete, we collaborate. So you know,
Exactly. Collaboration is the key.
yes.
And I promise, one of the, final closing questions that I have for you is, Victor. So, if you had to leave, business leaders with one message, what would it be for companies that want to use AI as a real competitive advantage, not just, another risky, experiment?
I
Just, one message.
I said do it because yes, it is going. The businesses who adopt AI to
Uh-huh.
compete will
Yeah.
succeed. The ones that don't will stagnate and will go away. So do it, but do it right. Do it right. Don't just rush out there and do it. Um, it is exciting. I say this is very exciting. I mean, we're living in great times. Before, years ago, I always wonder what the next revolution was going to be. And I didn't imagine. I didn't imagine this.
Mhm.
Um, this is great. I mean, this is going to change everything, our lives. And as organizations, they adopt it and integrate it into the environment that will do it right and securely. Though they will succeed. Uh,
This is a perfect closing message, Victor.
mhm,
And when you were saying you were, wondering what the next, industrial revolution would be, I
mhm,
had the same vision.
mhm.
I was actually, thinking the same thing, and
Yes.
I also didn't come up with this. I
Mhm.
mean, people thought, I mean, if you look back, all these major, technological or industry revolutions, they took years, right, to make
Yes.
an impact. But now this is gonna be almost instant. I mean, this is
Yes.
gonna
Yes.
be. I mean,
Mhm.
people compare it to, like, um, you know, invention of the car. Replacing a car with the horse, but
Yes. Yes.
maybe, but it's, I mean, that took so many years before,
Yes.
it was adopted, and, people lost jobs, but it took time before they lost the jobs, and then
Yeah.
they had time to actually, create new
Mhm.
roles and stuff. But now I think people are just gonna lose the jobs, but
Yes.
they're gonna be created as, right on the, as we go. So I think
Yeah.
it's, you're right. We are living in a very exciting times,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we
And
are
I'm
very
yeah.
fortunate, actually.
And
to
by the way, the fear losing jobs, that's not, I am, again, my opinion, maybe this is not gonna age right, but I actually think that much more jobs are gonna be created than than replace.
That's what the industry is saying.
Hmm.
I think right now I was even talking to some of the big the guys that actually work for the frontier labs,
Hmm.
and they're saying actually there is and they've done the study. I don't
Hmm.
know how accurate that is, but they said actually people are not being actually fired. I mean, those layoffs that we see,
Yeah.
it's a different story because there was so much hiring after the
Yes.
COVID and
Yes.
stuff.
Yes.
Now they're kind
Exactly.
of like adjusting the ecosystem.
Yes. Yeah. That's
So
what's
they're
happening.
saying actually there are people not getting fired. Actually, there's
Hmm.
a hiring freeze. That's what they're saying. Especially for the
Exactly. Yeah.
college graduate. It's that's why.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
that's an interesting actually point of view. So
Hmm.
anyway, Victor, I mean, thank you so much for joining me on the Secure by Design podcast today. I mean, extremely powerful statements that came out of your mouth, and it comes from years of experience of such a guy that ran a company for many years and been in the industry for so long. So today's conversation made one thing very clear to me, and I hope to all the listeners, that AI adoption is not just a technology decision. Pretty much, it's
Hmm.
also an infrastructure decision, a cyber security decision, a data governance decision,
Yes.
and a leadership decision. It's all about
Yes. Absolutely.
people.
Absolutely. Yes.
So before companies ask which AI tools should we buy, they should ask a better question: Are we ready? To
Exactly.
use AI safely, reasonably and effectively. Um,
Exactly.
so because of the foundation is weak, AI may expose the cracks as we described
Hmm.
before. So,
Hmm.
but if the foundation is strong, AI can become a real competitive
Hmm.
advantage to everybody. So,
Yes.
to everyone watching or listening, thank you for tuning in to Secure by Design with me, Daniel Kulik. Thank you so much. And, stay tuned for the next episodes. If you liked what you heard today, if you enjoyed my chat with Victor today, give us a hands up, like us, subscribe, and share with your friends and family, and with your work and colleagues at work. And it's always a pleasure, to talk to industry peers like you, Victor. So I really have to say kudos to you and to TechPiler,
Mhm.
and so long and see you soon. Thank
All
you.
right, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.